And here we are. Boom, we're
There we
on.
go. All right, you started off not too
Darren,
bad,
back
not
for
too
another
badly that
week.
time. Yes, and
Back for
hopefully
another week now.
yes, indeed. And
So I'm going to welcome you on like you did with me last week. You're a guest on this podcast.
I'm not a guy. I'm a host. Come on, man, get the terminology right. What are you talking about?
I just had to get you back for what you did to me last week. That's all. So we're even now.
Okay, sorry, I got you. Fair enough. All right, well, this is episode 2 of the Kingsman and the CyBUr Guy podcast, and this is an even week, which means that we are talking to a cybersecurity expert this time around to see about talk about what is of interest to them and should be of interest to everyone. Today is Compliance is Cool with our friend Paige Hanson, who is from the company Securelabs. They do compliance and GRC and things like that. So we'll talk to her about what exactly that means and what that looks like. And I am just testing on LinkedIn to make sure this is even working. It is. It does appear to be working. And make sure we're on YouTube. No, not you can on YouTube. So I'll have to post that later. But whatever. I'm still working out the technical glitches. But before we get to Paige, one thing I want to talk about is a thing you did today with our dark web tool and why that's important, and something we'll talk about down the line, but something for people to think about when you're looking at how exposed is your company and your domain and things like that. So kind of talk about what you did there. And I'll talk about something I did this week, which kind of had similar results.
So I think we need to get the T's and C's out before we continue. So warning, salty language may be incoming. Pitch slaps may be incoming. So every time there's a swear word, there'll be money in the swear jar. And every time there's a pitch slap, we'll put a notification to say you have been pitch slapped. But nevertheless, let's get into it. So yes, I had a company today approach me and ask me to check their company domain to see if there was any issues. So it was a random check. It wasn't staged. It was just a random check. And when I checked the domain, very serious came on that tool. And I don't think it'd be really fair for me to go into great detail what was exposed because, you've got GDPR and you've got NDAs. But if we had not discovered what was happening in their internal systems, that company would be looking at going out of business within the next 6 months.
And when you said you did a check, talk about what that means exactly, how you did it.
So all we need to do is get a company domain or email addresses, and we're able to put it into our dark web tool, and it will come back with a series of information. So some of it's really innocent, some of it will be, people have got Facebook profiles or Instagram profiles or even LinkedIn profiles. So it comes back the normal stuff. But with the dark web tool, it also comes back with if documents are getting traded on the dark web, if servers have been hit and what terminals have been hit specifically and how it was done. So whether it was like Stealer logs or, penetrated in multiple different ways that cyber gangs are able to get into systems. And it also comes back with any leaked information. So passwords, email addresses, people's addresses, like home addresses, telephone numbers. So the company that we checked today had a massive amount of data out there that the dark web is currently trading, and no company would want to be in that position. Again, I would love to talk about it more and say exactly what we found, but again, it wouldn't be fair on the company or what we found. So
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
don't
And I
know.
did it for my local church. I'm kind of their cyber person. So on a whim, I took the tool and said, okay, let me see from their domain what it looks like. Came back with 125 dark web hits where their employees had used their church domain address to sign up for things that ultimately got hacked and lost credentials. I saw passwords and password hashes and stuff like that. Basically sent them an email saying, hey, look, I found this stuff in 5 minutes. If you want me to go deeper, I can go and see what else there is. And they instituted a policy that day to everybody saying, do not use your church email to sign up for non-church related things. So that's a move in the right direction and something we'll talk about down the line. And actually, it's a service that Five Eyes Limit Ltd does as a service. Pitch Lab number 1. There you go. All right. So now let's bring on our guest, because we're not here to talk about any of this stuff. We're here to talk about compliance with our special guest and our friend, Paige Hanson. Paige, let me bring up your window. There you are, Paige. Hello.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Welcome.
My two favorite Five Eyes guys.
So talk about a little bit about talk a little bit about Secure Labs does, how you to talk about how you came into creating it. Like what was the impetus behind saying I want to do compliance and GRC and do that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about what
Yes,
that is in a minute.
I spent my whole career. So I was one of the first employees at LifeLock. So, almost 20 years ago, identity theft was a thing. It was happening, but there wasn't necessarily services around how to protect yourself and education around that. I think it was few and far in between you to hear about that about 20 years ago. And so being in the company and growing up in the company, being there for almost 17 years, I was able to create a number of educational programs for law enforcement, consumers, victim advocates, and businesses. So businesses is where that's where what tugs on my heartstrings the most, because businesses, you have not only the data you have as a company and you're building your product or your service, whatever it is, but you also have customers, you have clients, you have these consumers that interact with your service, and then all of a sudden you decide not to be compliant or take data security seriously, and now they have to pay for that. And so that is something, and that's where Secure Labs came from. Is one, we have a GRC, so governance, risk, and compliance platform. So that's going to help you have the roadmap of exactly what compliance frameworks that you are trying to follow and what needs to be done. And then on top of that, we have our advisory services. And so if you don't know where to start, you don't have somebody internally that can help with that or has the bandwidth to do so, we help and have advisory services where we will help you do that.
Cool. All right. So now talk about, so pretend I'm a 10-year-old and you want to explain compliance to me. So explain compliance to a 10-year-old so that you can understand,
Okay,
because most businesses need to do some kind of compliance, yet many do not. So
I do.
talk about what that's.
I would love to take a step back. So I was on last year, Tom Fox. He is a compliance guru. He has a number of podcasts. He has these books. You have to look these up on Amazon. Okay, so compliant, by the way, this is not like a paid ad or anything. I bought them for my kid. Compliance Saves the Galaxy. Being a
Pit
compliance
slapped out.
officer is awesome. And speaking up is awesome. So I'm really glad you asked this question, because this book, reading these books, tells you why, if people ask me, what do you do when they don't get it if they're not in the compliance space? And I bring these books along because they are so relatable. Who doesn't like saving dogs in the galaxy? So I love that there are resources out there. So shout out to Tom. Well done. And he actually, all those proceeds go to a dog rescue. So even win there. So you asked a question, as a 10-year-old, explain to me why compliance is important. It's important because you have to follow rules and a baseline of rules in order to protect data. Otherwise, if you think about it, people would just have a bunch of data on Excel spreadsheets, and then anybody who has access to that Excel all of a sudden now has access to that data. So it does help before have guardrails and a baseline recommendation on how to protect and secure your data and your environment.
All right. So most people think that it's kind of, boring and so on and so forth. But why do you believe it's cool?
One, I have these. I know people do think it's boring. I think they think it's boring because generally your interaction, it's Dr. No from the land of no land, everything. Oh, let's run it by compliance. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. But really, they're just trying to make sure everyone plays by the rules. Everyone is vetted before you're interacting with a third party, and it's really just to safeguard not only your company but your clients and your customers as well.
Okay.
Paige, I've got a question. Do you ever get asked to help companies that have got cyber insurance when it comes to compliance? Do you ever get involved in anything like that?
So I'm actually seeing a shift. I'm so glad you asked this, because going out and trying to convince someone to spend outside of their budget to work on their compliance and build their policies and get a certification is sometimes really challenging. But now insert in cyber risk insurance, and there are minimum requirements in order to get a full what's it called? Refund, not a refund, but payment back should you have a cyber incident. And so now you have businesses listening and paying attention. Oh, we need these 10 things, 20 things, whatever it is. That way, in the event I do have a cyber incident, then I am paid back the full amount versus a small amount because you're not following certain processes.
So I'm not sure if you're well rehearsed when it comes to cyber insurance, or there's like 10 or 20 things that are in a cyber insurance that they have to do.
Hmm.
So if there was a company listening to this right now and they have in cyber insurance, because this is a misconception that we see in the cybersecurity community, right? Some companies think I've got cyber insurance, something happens, that covers me. Like I don't need to do anything else bar this document. What are the like sort of top 3 or 5 things that are often in cyber insurance T's and C's that a company has to do bare minimum to get a payout?
Every policy is going to be different. Minimum things would be making sure you have multi-factor authentication on your accounts. These seem like no-brainers, right? But they're not happening. Making sure you have annual training, cybersecurity awareness training. Making sure you're encrypting the data. Maybe you have to segment your data. It really depends. Access controls. It's clearly identified who has access to what data in an organization. Does everybody have an admin password, or is it really those who need it, who are going to be changing whether your dev environment or onboarding people? And so it's going to range depending on your coverage, but those are kind of just some low level requirements that might seem super obvious, but people don't do it, and then they're not paid back the full amount.
So effectively, to summarize, somebody has cyber insurance. They think that they're covered because they got the document, but if they're not following the T's and C's and they have a cyber incident, they will not get paid out by the insurance company.
No, I mean, it's just like me. I had some travel issues this last week. I was like, oh, the airline didn't refund me. I'm like, you know what? I have a credit card. It doesn't. It's like, it's one of those you think, you're like, oh, I think I have it. I've got the insurance or I've got this. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, didn't have that particular travel issue. So it wasn't covered. So all of those things need to come. You need to ask whoever's issuing your insurance policy, what are the requirements? What are you going to do to investigate? And those are then the essentially the list of what you want to follow and incorporate into your organization.
So do
Yeah,
insurance
I
companies
mean
have
that's
their own? Oh, sorry, Mike. Along these lines, do insurance companies have their own compliance models? Do they expect you to rely on a specific one? Now, obviously, if you're healthcare, you got HIPAA, so you've got a compliance framework you have to use. But for a lot of other companies, there may not be a well-defined one. There may be state-required compliance stuff, but it's probably in most cases of companies or entities I've dealt with, they're not even aware of anything compliance-wise. So from an insurance perspective, what do they like? What do they want you to focus on specifically? They say, do this one, or do this one, or do whatever. Or here's 10 we want, and that's in our compliance framework.
Right. No, it's usually here's the 10 we want. This is what we want to see. And they vary depending on who you go with. And so, and I don't actually know, and then I know that there's one particular insurance company that requires access to your system so then they can validate themselves before they issue their insurance policy, and then they'll periodically check to invalidate. It'd be like an external audit essentially. But I guess depending on your policy and the amount and what your premium is, I think the higher your amount and you're trying to get insured, probably there's going to be more checks and balances and requirements for your organization to follow.
So how do you
yeah.
respond to an executive who just sees it as a checkbox exercise?
Cool. Well, how much is your reputation worth? Because we've all seen that meme. You've probably seen the meme where it's like cybersecurity budget pre-breach, and
Yes.
it's like two
Pennies.
pennies.
Yeah.
And then it's like cybersecurity budget post breach, and it's them just stacks of cash, and they're issuing whatever we can do, and you all always think it's not going to happen to you. I think both of you, I've either talked to you individually about this, you've said it multiple times on your podcast and multiple channels. Even Scott Agamban, our friend Scott, what did he say? You know, the thousands of victims he helped, and prevention was the only really way. Had they had these 2, 3 things in place, they would have not become victims in the first place. And that is what a compliance framework, something like the NIST cybersecurity framework, a baseline framework, is going to help you be a little bit more secure. That doesn't mean you are secure. It just means you're putting the efforts in place to at least have baseline security from a compliance standpoint. You guys are super jazzed. You guys are super jazzed about this conversation.
Well,
You're like,
here's the part.
where
No,
do
here's
we take this?
it's not your fault. It's we have not tasked how we're going to ask the questions. Like I said, here's a bunch of questions we can ask. We didn't say you ask this one, you ask this one. So I think we're both waiting for who's not talking. So I usually do most of the talking. So I'm trying not to jump in front of Mike's stuff. So Mike, it's your turn. Your turn for a compliance is cool related question. Especially because keep in mind, okay, so one thing, and I'll ask Mike's question for him. How does compliance differ in the U.S. versus the U.K.? Does it?
Oh, good question.
I personally, I think compliance is taken more seriously in the UK versus in the US. I think especially with GDPR and rolling out a consumer protection that has teeth to it and heavy fines, then businesses are taking it seriously on how they handle customer data, how they store, how they remove or have the right to be forgotten. I think it's adopted a little bit here in the US, but it's not an all overall law within the United States. It's individual states. And then also from a business perspective, I mean, you live there, Mike, so you can probably talk just what T's and C's you see versus maybe if you were on a US based website. Um, Me being in Arizona, I see a lot of, you know, for if you are in California, you can select this and it can limit the way we store, or you can have the right to be forgotten. It's like, oh, I'm so close, but don't forget my information too. So I personally, I think the UK is doing a much better, and I'll just say
I mean,
better
because
job.
we've got the cybersecurity and resilience bill that's coming out in the UK, which is going to be a massive hammer blow, and it's a hammer blow that's has been needed for decades now. There's just certain industries that don't take cybersecurity seriously, whether it's GRC, whether it's SOC services, whether it's pen testing, they just don't take it seriously. It's the bottom of the priority, and there's going to be 5 industries in the UK that will have no choice now. It all stems from that the UK government cannot physically protect national security and businesses in the UK. There's just not enough budget, not enough personnel to do it. I think in the US, you guys are a little bit more fortunate because you've got a bigger budget, you've got bigger, teams within your intelligence agencies. And I think Darren's going to come back and say, maybe not, but you have got the bigger budget, the bigger network, but then you've also got a bigger population, which comes with its own problems. So it would be good to see the US do something equivalent to the cybersecurity and resilience bill, where it's, I don't know, healthcare, energy, critical infrastructure, data centers, and I don't know, maybe MSPs in the US, where they have to get cybersecurity. It's like, it's the way you talked about earlier with the compliance and the cyber insurances. It's non-negotiable. You have to get it, and you're
Yeah.
seeing that turn.
Well,
Where,
asterisk, by the way, asterisk, you don't have to. You just won't be reimbursed the full amount that you're planning on. You know, so
yeah,
it's, yeah. But I will say healthcare, for instance, HIPAA. We're all we touch HIPAA whether we're a patient and we've signed a waiver, or we are in the space and we're helping protect patient health information. You will go to probably the majority of healthcare, small practice healthcare, and you say, are you HIPAA compliant? And they'll say, yes, I am. They've never had an external audit. They use HIPAA compliant software. It's not like the HHS is going to come and do an audit. I mean, the likelihood is very small. So why are they, what do you have to say to them for them to go above and beyond to help protect the patient information? Because they've been doing the same thing for 10 plus years. And so what I've been seeing now, just this year, they're introducing more cybersecurity related requirements in HIPAA, which I think is really good. But we're back to, and this is people in the cybersecurity profession are just like, oh my gosh, this is the requirement. You have to have multi-factor authentication. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have cybersecurity
Mm-hmm.
policies, cybersecurity training, things that would be, you think would be obvious, but those are now required. Will it be enforced? We don't know.
Well, the hard thing with HIPAA, it's been around 30 years, 29, it'll be 30 next year, but so the act hasn't changed in 30 years, but the threats and the risks have changed dramatically. And that's the problem with all the stuff in the U.S. And is that right now we can't get politicians to decide if there's crime in D.C. So to get them to come up with some kind of compliance standard for everybody to fall under is a dream that I think we should all wake up from and understand it's not going to happen unless the private sector's got to drive this train, but the public sector's got to allow the private sector to drive it, to get in the driver's seat and say, okay, here's what you should do. And public sector or the government, whatever, can help with simple things. Like I talked to a guy once and he had a great idea. He said, if a company does everything correctly, if they, start doing the right thing with compliance, give them a tax break. You're doing all these things, we'll give you a tax break if you do these things. That's the quickest way to do it because it's going to be money. Because this was a question I was going to ask you later down the line, Paige, but this is the problem with all of this when we talk about cybersecurity. And you and I and Mike, we've all talked about this before. Cybersecurity compliance is a cost center. They're not making money off of it, so you have to. They have, but talk to that a little bit and how you overcome those issues.
Sure,
with your clients.
It's fair. It's a fair statement, but it also can be seen as a differentiator. Are your competitors, do they have their SOC 2 attestation report? Do your competitors, have they gone through ISO 27001 certification? Can they say that we, GDPR, whatever the compliance, can they say that? Probably not. And that does give consumers, if you're looking at your data and how it's stored and protected and where it's going and how right to be forgotten, that matters. And that can be a differentiator between you getting business with another partner or more clients. And so it can be used as a marketing tool. And that little shift in leading with that could be the difference between you and one of your competitors getting the business.
That is a great point.
Darren, I said a comment about the US intelligence agencies that used to have a more budget, and I could see your eyebrows and your forehead just scrunching like you had an opinion coming. So tell me what your opinion was.
No, I mean, yeah, sure. I'm sure we have a bigger budget than you guys, but doesn't mean that it's being used for the things that we need it to be used for.
Paige, I'm hoping that you're not going to be biased and you can settle a debate that me and Darren have. Right?
Oh, no.
Here we go.
You put me right in the middle of you guys. Tell me, what's the debate?
Remember, let's just say hypothetically you're Canadian, right? So you're not actually a US citizen, okay? So because you're going to get a bit biased on this one, right?
Well, but Canadians belong to the UK. That's not fair. Can't she get Canadian? Switzerland. You're Switzerland.
I'm in the Swiss Alps right now. I'm in the Swiss Alps right now. So go ahead.
Who do you think's got the better intelligence agency, the UK or the US?
Oh, I don't have enough information about. I don't have enough information about that, so I don't have an opinion about that.
What's on the other shoulder? The other shoulder's that's the FBI one, isn't it? On the other shoulder.
This one?
Yeah.
This is the president. Oh, so my my father-in-law was a U.S. Master Sergeant in the Air Force, and so he flew on Air Force One, and so that is Ronald Reagan's little seal.
Very nice.
Seal. So it's really cool. So that I think there's a coffee cup in there, but we just keep it. It's all presidential.
Okay. I'll take it. You'll pick the UK because you're being conservative. So I'll say your answer's the UK. Thank you, Paige, for answering that question.
Oh goodness!
All right, back to compliance, Mike. What's your compliance question? I sent you a bunch of questions. You didn't read it. Didn't read the email.
No,
way to go.
I
Way to be playing. Way to play in
for my own questions. I want to go for my own questions, Darren. I want to go for my own questions. No, I have got one actually. So when you're speaking to companies and you've got the two camps, right? You've got one camp where it's they need it and you're telling them they need it, but there's still reservations. And then you've got the one camp where you're telling them they need it, but they tell you they don't need it. how do you combat that as a cybersecurity company where you know they need it, but they're not listening to you? I mean, you're the professional, you're the expert, but they're telling you for whatever reason they don't need it. How do you combat that? Because this is like the $1 million question in the cybersecurity community, right?
Right. I mean, sadly, I mean, I just have to move on because, I mean, there are millions of businesses that need to be protected. There's people that need our services, and I'd rather focus my energy on answering questions that better help protect and people that are, and if they, sure, if they want, they say, hey, come next year, follow back up. Sure, I'll follow back up. But I spent a lot of energy when I first started the company, just like, I'm going to tell you more about this and why you need to do it. And for me, it just wasn't, it's not it didn't work for us. And so now just aligning with uh, certain channel partners or partners that, like an MSP, the organization is coming to them for their managed services, and they also need compliance services. So it's a wonderful alignment because we can work both ways together. Because then we're in front of more people at the more time. So I don't know. I mean, the same to guys, like you probably hit the same wall, right? I mean, well, it was your first episode. You're
Hmm.
the company that you said, hey, you've got all this on the dark web, and this is going on. See, I listen to you guys. I
Yes, right.
subscribed.
You're the
Subscribe,
one.
subscribe. Um, and
That's a pitch slap.
it's one of those where you've seen the dark web report, you know what is going to happen next, and the fact that they've been breached before, it's scary. And really, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's a very bad leadership and business decision on the other side to not
Yeah.
do something
So
proactive.
I have a theory, and I'll run it by you and see what you think. So my theory is the cybersecurity world and the everyday world is two different worlds completely. So especially for like me and Darren, who've worked for the intelligence agencies, we've went into the dark side, whereas you're seeing the real world for what it actually is, not this, pictured world, fairy tale world that the rest of the public think that they live in. And unless the public have experienced the dark world, then they don't fully get that. They're scared to go into that world. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to know about it, and they depend on that the intelligence agencies of the West do such a good job that they never have to be exposed to that. So the general public are able to go about their day to day life, not experience threats, not experience any problems because they're protected. Whereas if that individual was based in the eastern part of the world, like Ukraine, Russia, China, they'll understand threats because it's a daily occurrence. Like they will experience it at a high level, they get it. So I think in the West, we're so well protected as nations by the government, by the intelligence agencies, that if you go to a business person and say, this is what we found on the dark web, it's like, what is the dark web? I don't even understand what that is for first and foremost, and you're exposing me to something I don't want to be exposed to. So I think there's these two worlds that don't combine, and the security industry, not just cybersecurity, the security industry as a whole, is really bad at translating language to the business world that they understand as well. So that's my sort of thoughts and observation. Do you agree, disagree, or have opinions on that?
I have opinions. I'm aligned slightly, but also, like, wouldn't you agree that we all have data breach fatigue
Oh yeah,
and just
Yeah.
absolutely.
fatigue of,
Yes.
we've had two that I can just remember off the top of my head, biggest breaches ever,
Mm.
just in the matter of 2 or 3 months. So if I'm thinking, if I'm just a consumer here, being like, well, I mean, my information's out there. Like, what does it matter whether I use a VPN or not? Or what does it matter for my company if I'm on public Wi-Fi when I'm working? They're making me travel anyway. Why does it matter if I, toggle on my VPN or reuse passwords or use a privacy screen? Why does it matter? And that is part of one of the things is having a security first culture. For if we're talking business here, it's a security first culture, so you understand why that matters to the bottom line. You not using a VPN actually could leave us open to cyber threats. Additionally, for any of these, let's say, certifications that require all employees to use a VPN when they're not on, let's say, the work Wi-Fi, then that you could jeopardize your compliance certification as well if you're not following those rules. And so, at the end of the day, people need to understand why it really matters. What they're doing matters to the security, and why all of that matters.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Go on,
So
Dan.
let's talk about your platform, right? So Secure Labs has a
Yeah.
platform, a compliance platform. Talk about what it does, how it helps companies, and why they should call you and talk about it.
Well, a lot of times and this is what I'm getting is we don't know where to start. We understand and I'll use SOC 2 attestation report as is just the example, because we get quite a few of our clients are coming. They're saying, oh, in order for us to work with XYZ company, that's a larger company, they're requiring us to have a SOC 2 report. So we help them, but they don't know where to start. So the roadmap is important, and the platform is your roadmap. It's saying, do you do this? Yes. Upload the evidence that you need. But then we're also getting feedback because we actually introduced the platform only in the marketplace about 3 years ago. But what we are getting is, okay, this is great. We understand what you're doing. But I have a business where I have 25 people and one person that does InfoSec or one person that does security. I can't have them spend the next 3 months putting all this together. We need help. And so that's why I think it pairs nicely with our advisory services, people that have gone through the certification process for many of the compliance frameworks. And then we get to help them and then be part and extension of their team.
And how does that give companies a competitive advantage by having compliance in their company?
I mean, one, you're working with me, but I mean, that's the side now.
Sure.
If I will say, if they get to work with you and you get to play the piano to them, then sign you up.
Yes.
That's your USP is that keyboard. Keep doing your videos with the keyboard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's funny. I show my daughter and she's like, that's my keyboard. I'm like, sure is, girl. Sure is. It's super fun. So, as far as advantage goes, if you're working with us, if you're using our platform, great. We'll be there to support you if you have questions. It's pretty straightforward and user friendly. We don't get a lot of extra questions, so awesome. But as far as advisory services go, the competitive advantage is that I've met with a lot of clients that will use the platform at first, and then I check in with them, monthly or quarterly, and they just aren't moving as quickly as they maybe initially thought. So the advisory services will definitely keep you on track. Building your, let's say, getting ready for SOC 2 or ISO 27001, getting ready for that within 3 months versus an entire year. So you have somebody that's my role, or my team member's role. We are helping you develop the policies, get the correct control and the evidence, all of that, and that's what our role is, and that's what is super helpful.
So if you were the CISO of a growing company, what would be your first three compliance priorities?
Well, first, you do have to have a risk management. You have to align your risk management and with regulatory alignment. So, do you have UK? Do you have to follow GDPR? Do you have healthcare information? Do you have to abide by HIPAA? So just making sure you understand the risk profile with all of the assets and just different potential threats. Like, you have to have a good understanding of that. Secondly, and this is important too, is just making sure you have a robust incident response plan. How many times,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the
Mm-hmm.
incident response plan can't be sitting on your shelf and there's dust or no one knows where to find it. Your incident response plan, if possible, we test it yearly for certain incidents. It's a low level requirement for a lot of frameworks. Quarterly, get together with your executive team, know who's running comms, knows who's so people go on vacation, people are out. Run it when your CISO's out of town and see how you do, and make sure you can run a plan if you have some ransomware attack or data breach or something without the key player who you're all relying on. That is super important. And lastly, let's see, third one, definitely security and awareness training. You have to, and
Mm.
it can't just be the one and done. I mean, so many organizations are, oh, we did our computer-based training and people just tap through it, I'm sure. Invite outside speakers. Do you know how many times I've been invited to organizations to be their outside speaker, especially during Cybersecurity Awareness Month that's happening in October? They're bringing in a different perspective and it's aligning with the company's cultures, or maybe executive leadership are saying a certain thing, and bringing an outside speaker with a different perspective that says the same thing enforces and enhances the security first culture, which you hopefully are establishing and building.
So you don't only talk cybersecurity, you also talk protecting seniors. So let's pitch that a little bit too, because
I
that's a good one. I always
do.
like to
I
bring up.
do. Yes, so I'm involved with a nonprofit here in Arizona called ROSE, Resources and Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly. And it's really important. The prevention aspect is huge. There's not a lot of extra protections. If you're a victim of identity theft or fraud, or, I'm sure there's elder abuse laws. The prevention aspect is key. So talking about setting a credit freeze or fraud alert and these new scams and what to look out for and who's your ally and who you can rely on in those instances is very important. And I love the work that Rose does. I get to go out in the community alongside other people that are involved in the nonprofit and educate the 55 plus old communities.
So I've got another question for you, Paige. So when you're doing these, keynote speaking, these public speaking events, and you're bringing your voice, you're bringing your character to the table, you're educating people about
Mm-hmm.
cybersecurity and compliance. At the end of these events, how many people or percentage, because that would be subjective of how many people, but what's the percentage of people that come up to you at the end and say, I would love you to tell me more?
I mean, usually there's a handful afterwards, right? And so as long as I don't have to jet and go on to the next thing, I love spending time and seeing, whatever questions they have. This last conference I spoke at was a bankers conference, and so really honed in on the authentication processes that they were doing from the teller standpoint, and then electronically, maybe even with wires. What are you doing to authenticate that this is actually your member of the bank or client of the bank? And so that sparked a lot of really great discussion afterwards during the networking part. And I loved hearing all the questions and thoughts around that, because that's better protecting your money.
So again, do you feel like sometimes you get brought to do these public speaking events as for the company as a ticky box exercise to say they've had cybersecurity training and it's like the ticky box for compliance, or do you feel like companies actually bring you in because they want to have that security culture within their company? Because me and Dan have got several sources that you know as well. I don't want to name them because that wouldn't be fair, but some people have said to us that when they do these speaking gigs, they're only brought in for compliance. It's very much of like to say we've had cybersecurity training from somebody who's got a certain background. It's not to
Mhm.
change the culture of a company. Do you find that when you do speaking gigs, or is it more they do want to actually change the culture?
Generally, I would say it's more of a culture. These are the companies that are bringing me in have a speaker budget. They prioritize bringing outside voices in. Generally, because I ask, what cybersecurity awareness training they do, and generally it is via an LMS, a learning management platform, and they're doing online training, but then they line it up with other lunch and learns and other outside speakers, because they understand that doing it throughout the year and having outside people overall helps protect the company.
Well, maybe we're making positive direction, and if people are actually bringing you in for a security culture as opposed to just a compliance checky box, because yeah, we've had several people say it's a ticky box exercise. That's all it is. It's not, it's not like the room has got a line of people saying, "Please save my life," because I feel like I'm going to be cyber attacked. It's just maybe one or two people come to the end and say, "Oh, that was a great talk you did there. I've got one
Yeah.
question," and then we'll leave it there.
But I also think that now with AI and people from multiple
Mm,
facets. So whether you are introducing AI within your organization and you're deciding how you want to use it safely and securely, maybe you personally are using AI, or you're just you don't even know where to start, and understand that scams can be enhanced and amplified with AI. A lot of my requests right now are more AI related. So you're incorporating cyber attacks, the common things that have been happening for years and years, but now showing how they're being enhanced with the use of AI, because awareness is key. If you're not aware that something can happen, then you could be a victim in a plot in this whole scam ecosystem and not even know it, because you're not even aware something like that can happen. So I think it's good for these companies to evolve, like you were talking about, just like the evolution of these crimes. Then also you need to learn, bring in people that know about this and can speak about those things.
Hashtag knowledge is protection.
Boom. Can we get
so
that
you
up on
might
the
have
screen?
Yeah,
you
I was
might
about
have
about to
saw
type that up there, but
you
all right,
might have
Paige.
seen on one of mine.
Oh, go ahead.
I've got
Go
one
ahead.
last question, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
One
Go
last
ahead.
question. So you might have seen on one of mine and Darren's previous podcasts. This is before we started this one. It was on Darren's podcast, and we were discussing two things. If every cybersecurity business closed down tomorrow, would the
Mm-hmm.
market care? Right. So I want your opinion on, in the US, Canada, and the UK, if every, because we're at the point now where companies don't listen to us. They only listen to us when they want to be reactive, not proactive. So if every cybersecurity company went, you know what, I'm sick of trying to sell you the dream here, try to save your company, we're just going to close all our businesses. One, would the market care? And two, would the market react? And how quickly do you think cybersecurity would become in demand? And the second question is, what do you think has to happen in the West where the culture completely changes? So on that podcast, we talked about 9/11 as an event. So when 9/11 happened, security done a like 180. It was like airport security went through the roof. Physical security companies were killing it because it was like the threat level was high now. A lot more cybersecurity companies started popping up after 9/11 as well. So I had to take something as catastrophic as 9/11 for the West to go, actually, we need to take security very more serious now. So I feel like that was a loaded question, but if you can remember it, please answer.
Hey, at least you know it was a loaded question. Um, Generally, I would say things have things. Uh, Cybersecurity events, cyber an identity theft issue, something has to happen to the people that are making the decisions. An event like that has to, because the best time to sell, or to not sell, but to help an organization is usually after something happened. They are aware of it. And so then they're going to beef up their security, and they're going to you have a home invasion. All of a sudden now you've got Fort Knox on your house. So you're generally not going to do anything until something happens. My concern, though, is if your first part of the question, if all the security companies went away, there were no one to notify you if someone was in your system, if there's analyzing your logs and making sure there's no anomalies or something happening. I think it would take a while for people, I think at first would be like, no, this is fine. We don't need security. Because
hmm
because the reason why you know about those threats are because of the cybersecurity companies that are alerting you to those threats. So I think for a long time, maybe there wouldn't be necessarily a change. Now on the fraudster side, they'd be having a heyday because they would be in stealth mode into all these organizations sharing Coca-Cola secrets, but nobody would know. So that's the first part of your question. I don't think it would change right away, but then something crazy is going to happen, and then people will realize the value of those security companies.
Okay.
That's right.
What do you
I'm
think,
happy with
Mike?
that.
Is that Mike approved? Is that a Mike approved answer?
That's pretty much
Well,
our answer. We
Darren
had the
did
same. That's
put
pretty much our answer.
Mike's favorite question hashtag. So, because it's an interesting debate, right? Because it doesn't matter what cybersecurity company you've got in the western part of the world. We're all saying the same thing. We're all going through the same issues. It's like, You know, you're trying to help the world, you're trying to help businesses, but the world doesn't want to be helped. So what do you do? And it's like,
Y-
does something as catastrophic as 9/11 have to happen where it impacts so many people at the one time that the culture changes in society? Because if you think about it, when 9/11 happened, it touched so many different people's lives for so many different reasons
Mhm.
that the security culture changed. And it's changed history. It's, you know, security at airports now is like, it's tight. You ain't getting through
Yeah.
much with it at the airports.
But here's the deal is I don't even want to fathom what it has to be that has to
Mm-hmm.
happen for cybersecurity to be taken seriously. Because we've already had, the Equifax breach in what, 2017, that you thought
Mm-hmm.
would be the changer, because that's, you have no choice but have your information to be at the credit bureau. You have zero choice as a US citizen, whether your information goes there or not. And so that affected almost every single American, but yet nothing really changed. Maybe a few laws and the access to your credit report changed, and okay, but nothing life changing really changed. And then you've got these mega breaches now, where people are just like, what do I even do anyway? I think I saw that one last month. Oh wait, no, it's a different one. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm really, if you're saying, and what I'm aligned with, something has to happen, I'm really afraid on what that really big thing would be to get people to change in businesses to care a little bit more.
Yeah, because the
Cool.
example I used was like, let's say you got a Russian hacking group. They've got the capabilities, they've got the tools, they've got the intention, they've got the
Hmm.
skill set, they've got the training. If Bank of England, Bank of America, and Bank of Canada all got cyber attacked at the very same time, and every citizen could not get access to their money digitally or physically, and people's bank accounts started getting emptied, people's stocks started getting sold, bonds started getting sold, and then people are waking up and the next morning with not a penny in the bank account. So that's impacted so many people across 3 countries. And then the investigation shows it was a cyber attack that caused that. Would that be a big enough impact that people would go, I need to take cybersecurity more seriously?
It would be for the banks,
Yeah, it would be for
but
the
Mm.
banks. No,
But as
but
an
who's
individual, if you've got no money to pay your bills,
no, I get that, but
right.
everybody who's not a bank's like, well, at least it didn't happen to me. Thank God for that.
Yeah. When you are a bank, you're like, okay, where do I start? Because then you're inundated with all these companies that can help, but really identify exactly what needs to be done is probably a certain skill set. So I think yeah, I mean, it's messy, that's for sure. Um, Mike, are you going to ask everybody now these
Probably he
questions? You're
probably
going to
is. Yes, he probably will. Probably
compile it
the
you
end of
better
onto,
believe it.
the end of every episode. Okay, let's pretend that all the
yeah.
cybersecurity companies went away. What's going to happen?
Darren, you loved that question I first asked it. You loved that.
Yes, I
Do you
know,
know
but
what it is?
I've moved on from it, man.
Me and you have spoke so much over the last 6 months that we're getting bored of each other's voice now. That's the problem.
That could be true. All right, Paige. I know you're going to be in my neck of the woods in a month. Where else can people find you with your information?
Yes, Securelabs.ai is our website. I'm also really active on LinkedIn. So if you want to look me up, it's Paige Hanson. I also recently started a YouTube channel. It's called Paige on Cyber. So if you want little tidbits, Mike referenced my song from the other day. I did sing. I'm starting a thing. I'm going to start a series called Cyber Safety Karaoke. I mean, I hope it catches on, because I certainly had a lot of fun recording it. Oh,
Well,
good
Mike
times.
can be the first guest singer. That'd be good. I'd love to hear that. The Scottish,
Yeah, he said
as
he
No,
long
said
as as
no.
long as there's one in the Scottish brogue. So let us do that.
You didn't
trust
realize,
me.
when I'm in Birmingham, no, Huntsville, so
Huntsville.
rather, when I'm in Huntsville next month, Darren, you don't realize it's a live segment of cyber safety karaoke, and I know you.
All right. I'll give it a ride. I'll try it. I'll try. I used to be a
No,
musician, so
you
to
do
speak.
not want me on the
I was,
microphone. I
hey,
absolutely destroy any song you give me. I will destroy it.
when I was in high school, I
Okay,
was all state choir for 4 years. So happy to
I
sing
believe
along.
it. I believe it.
So why you
Well,
why you
Pay,
never sung to me, Darren? What's that all about?
I don't know.
Listen, Your relationship has to be like an onion. There has to be layers, all right? You
Right.
can't give it all right away. You're gonna have a long, prosperous relationship with five eyes. Okay, pitch slap, five eyes,
Oh
no
yeah, pitch.
promo.
Yeah, there you go. That's number
Um,
4.
so he's
Sorry,
not gonna
edit,
give
edit the
away
text.
all his trade secrets, okay?
That's right. There's got to be a little,
Yeah.
little mystery in the relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the first time me hearing about that, to be fair. I didn't realise you had a voice on you, so fair one. Fair play.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, we can talk about this another time. But I have a meeting in like 8 minutes, so we got to get cooking out of here. Paige, thanks so much for coming on. Go check out Paige on LinkedIn. Look at her YouTube. Paige on CyBUr. Do some CyBUr karaoke if you're near where she is. I'd love to see you. Make sure you record that. Paige, thanks so much. If we can ever be of any service to you, please obviously hit us up, and we will be there for you.
Will do. All right. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thanks.
Have a good
right,
one.
Mike.
Bye.
All right, Mike. So pitch slap number 5. I'm not going to put the number up, but here's the website if you want to get more information about what Mike and I do at Five Eyes Ltd, trying to protect logistics companies and others. So if you're not in logistics, we can still help you if you're so inclined. With that, we're going to head out. Next week, we will have another live episode. Hopefully, I can work out some more of the kinks because this didn't work on YouTube, but whatever. I'm still trying to fight through the technology piece. Any final words before we kick out?
Nope, I've spoke too much, Darren. You've let me free too much today, so I'll rein it in next week.
All right, sounds good. So for Mike McQuaid, I'm Darren Mott. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch or listen. If you have questions, hit us up on LinkedIn, email us, do the things. We will talk to you again next week.
Have a good one.